it's super interesting that really how you feel mentally at any given time is basically defined by the balance of these four neurotransmitters in your brain. If you're uptight or anxious, you might be low in GABA. If you're procrastinating, you might be low in dopamine. If you have brain fog, you might be low in acetylcholine. If you're in a shitty mood, you're probably low in serotonin. You have more control over your brain than you think. And with just natural foods and supplements, you can help nudge your brain in certain directions and make yourself feel better. And it's empowering when people realize something's not wrong with you. You're just a little low in acetylcholine. Just being introspective, I think, is a massive part of improving your health in all ways, and just being able to be more in tune with how you feel at any given time. Yeah, I think kind of most people that think, oh, my memory's not good, or like I'm lazy, or whatever it is, and it's like, okay, let's do something about that.
Yeah, it's not like a sealed fate.
Yeah, exactly.
Welcome to the Collaborative Resource Hub by Wellness Provisions. We're bridging the gap between mental health, wellness, and rock and roll. I'm Amy McBride, owner of Wellness Provisions, the most badass wellness business. Hey, are you feeling a little stuck in life? I offer wellness coaching sessions. Book a session with me if you're seeking to get healthy and ahead. Sessions are available worldwide. And check this out. Wellness Provisions supplies rock and rollers with high-quality supplements. We've simplified your shopping experience and given you a trustworthy place to go where you can essentially shop blindfolded. And did you know all our Collaborative Resource Hub interviews air on YouTube as well as all major podcast platforms? Subscribe to stay in the loop. Go immerse yourself in the full Collaborative Resource Hub experience over on our website. You'll have access to helpful resources that will inspire and educate you. So let's inspire each other. If that guy did it, so can you. Last but not least, my legal disclaimer. Nothing in this interview or the Collaborative Resource Hub substitutes medical advice. Please connect with your GP if you need medical guidance.
Roy from Natural Stacks, how are you?
Doing great. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you're here. Like, I've been wanting to have this kind of conversation for a while, so I'm stoked.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I guess briefly, in a nutshell, do you want to kind of like explain your company, who Wellness Provisions sells, for those listening, because we do sell supplements aside from talking to cool people, and then also like what drew you into the world of brain health?
Yeah. So Natural Stacks creates open source supplements to build a better brain. Everything we do is brain health related, and open source refers to our quality and transparency program. Super passionate about that. We have QR code on all of our product labels we disclose where all the ingredients came from, and a third-party lab test. I think all supplement companies should do that. Hopefully they take our lead and follow, because just when I was getting into the industry, and this was 12 years ago, there's just so much lack of transparency, lack of quality. And you email a company and ask for their lab test or COA, and it's just a black hole.
Yeah.
So I wanted to put that out there just kind of first. And also when people are taking something for their brain, they want to know its quality. They want to trust it. So that's helped us a lot. But yeah, I mean, my mission is to become the leader in natural brain health. There's really not any other companies that are owning that niche.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just massive demand, and there's supplemental tools that people can use to help themselves. And it's very rewarding when they hear those testimonials.
But quickly though, that's something I want to like grab onto for a second, is that there are a lot of companies who do make products to support brain health, but like there's no one who like that's what they focus on. And like that is really important when that's available, because that means that company is doing like so much more research. You're just going to end up with like a more, like a product with higher efficacy and stuff, when that's their primary focus, instead of just being like crazy all across the board.
Yeah, all the big brands will have one or two brain products, but they're heavy in joint and heart health and immunity and all
everything
this other
else.
stuff.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like brain is the most important organ out of all of those. If you don't have your brain, why do you care about your joints? So I mean, obviously, whole body health very important, but it all starts up here. So let's try to take care of that first.
Yeah. So is there like a strong correlation, would you say, between gut health and brain health?
Yeah, of course, and it's all interrelated. Um, there's a lot more research coming out now than there was 10, 20 years ago, and something called the vagus nerve that connects the gut and the brain. And there's actually serotonin and GABA. A lot of that, like 50% or something, is produced in the gut. And yeah, there's you feel butterflies in your gut when you're nervous, and you could have like diarrhea when you're like scared.
Yeah,
It's like
that's what happened to me with like anxiety. It's like all the
yeah,
anxiety,
yeah,
I feel it all in my gut.
yeah, totally. And anxiety is related to GABA,
Hmm.
and GABA is heavily produced in the gut, and it yeah, it's really interesting, and I think it's just kind of like I see the body as like the next innovation platform and frontier that is just like now starting to get, the future is going to be wild. They're going to have like some little robot that you swallow, and it like gives you like instant biometrics on your gut that it's and it's like starting, right? You, there's a lot more data now than there was before,
Yeah,
but that's going to really exponentiate, I think, and being able to really personalize the exact nutrients that you need based on your exact deficiencies, and not only like by the day, because these things fluctuate. So it's
absolutely. And that's a good point. Yeah, that's a
super
good
interesting.
point. So I have 4 of the neurotransmitter boosters that you guys have. So do you want to start with one, or should I just close my eyes and pick one to start with?
However you want to rock it. Yeah.
All right. GABA. How
GABA.
about that?
Yeah. So GABA is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. It slows you down. Alcohol increases GABA. So you can kind of think, people come home from work, they're uptight, they're overwhelmed, they're stressed out. They want to relax. They want to find that zen. So they grab a drink. That GABA helps you calm down. So if you're low in GABA, you're going to be overstimulated, overwhelmed, anxious, nervous. The feeling of kind of racing thoughts. You're laying in bed and you just can't go to sleep because you got too much going on.
Yeah, like
So
everybody.
yeah, well, everyone's different, and it's super interesting to me that everyone is dominant in a specific neurotransmitter.
Mhm.
And if you're dominant in one, you're typically a little deficient in another, and it's genetic. So you're like born, your genetics, and not just dominant, just means that you create one neurotransmitter a little more efficiently than you create the others,
Okay.
and that defines your personality. That's who you are, how you see the world, how you process information, how you interact with others. It's really defined by the levels of these neurotransmitters in your brain. And even if you're dominant, levels still fluctuate based on what you're eating and your environment and relationships and all and everything. But yeah, it's super interesting that really how you feel mentally at any given time is basically defined by the balance of these 4 neurotransmitters in your brain.
Yeah. And so like if someone's like having like an extra stressful work week or something, then they could be more deficient in GABA than normally, for example, right?
So stress is also, it's very serotonin related. Um, GABA is more like anxious, nervous,
Okay.
racing thoughts, the inability to relax. Whereas stress is, and there's some interesting studies showing that stress and serotonin are quite related. If you're low in serotonin, you're more easily stressed out. And serotonin is happiness, the ability to smile. And if you're deficient in serotonin, you're going to be negative, lower self-esteem, constantly wanting to kind of snack or like binge eating, because carbohydrates are kind of a quick fix for your brain to make serotonin.
Okay.
So there's some interesting studies showing like serotonin and weight loss. Trouble sleeping because serotonin, your brain turns amino acids found in food like L-tryptophan into 5-HTP, then into serotonin. And the last step of that metabolic chain is melatonin. So if you're really deficient in serotonin, then you're not producing melatonin efficiently.
Right. So some people would just jump the gun and take melatonin when they could back up a few steps and take serotonin and notice more positive effects probably throughout, their life anyway.
Yes, skipping metabolic steps is usually not, it's effective. It's more of like a drug approach. It's more of a Band-Aid. It's you don't want to do it too often, or it becomes a crutch. You're not eating melatonin in your normal diet. That's not something that the cavemen were were consuming. It acts a lot more like a drug. So yeah, typically you want to start with those building block amino acid precursors.
Okay. And so what about dopamine? Because I feel like, at least in my bubble, that's like, I see dopamine stuff everywhere. And I feel like it's getting a bad rap as well.
Yeah, you see like dopamine detox. It's like all over
Mhm.
TikTok and stuff.
Yeah.
So dopamine is motivation, drive, the ability to experience pleasure. If you are deficient in dopamine, you're going to procrastinate. That's the thing that most people can relate to. If you're low in dopamine, you procrastinate. This was one of my problems. I've found that I'm a serotonin dominant person, and I'm typically a little deficient in dopamine. So serotonin and dopamine are a little bit of a teeter-totter, as well as acetylcholine and GABA. So if you're high in one, you might be a little bit lower in the other.
And that was something I was wondering if there was kind of like, like a check balance between certain neurotransmitters, like if they, if you're low at like specific ones like that.
Yeah, ideally you want Dr. Eric Braverman, he calls it the edge effect. So like ideally all your neurotransmitters are pretty balanced. You're not overactive, you're not under, you're able to produce all pretty efficiently. But that's kind of a pipe dream. So dopamine, I think is one of the more interesting ones. Yeah. So if you're low dopamine, you're going to just kind of feeling dull. You're laying in bed. You don't want to wake up. You don't want to go accomplish your day. You don't have that drive.
But how would someone differentiate between that and serotonin then? Because that also just sounds like just being like bummed out, right?
It's a kind of a different kind of bum, I guess. Yeah. So dopamine is motivation, drive. But if you're low dopamine, yeah, you're just kind of dull, like you're not excited about anything. And yet that's I guess a form of depression, and there are drugs, MOAIs, that target dopamine, but most mood depression drugs are targeting serotonin, SSRIs, and serotonin is the ability to be happy and stress-free and just feeling positive. So it's a little different, but yeah, they're different feelings. Dopamine and serotonin are a little different, but they both have effects on mood.
Okay. Yeah. And so then the acetylcholine, what's that one about?
So acetylcholine is mental processing speed. Like how fast is your brain processing and short-term memory. So if you're deficient in acetylcholine, you have tip of the tongue syndrome. Like, what's that one word I'm thinking of? It's on the tip of your tongue. You're forgetting people's names. You have brain fog, kind of scattered. So acetylcholine allows you to focus better and have that short-term memory, which is important for really all mental processing, multitasking. So it's like clarity.
Yeah.
Clarity and processing speed. How fast is your brain going? So like dopamine would be the gasoline for your car, and acetylcholine would be the accelerator.
That's cool. I like that analogy.
GABA would be the brakes.
Yeah. And so can people do you just take them, you would take these products like as needed, right?
Yeah. So for me, I take the dopamine every morning.
Okay.
We have a product called Dopamine Brain Food. And yeah, I don't procrastinate anymore. So I feel great. And the other ones I take on demand based on how I'm feeling. Or what I want to do that day, which kind of gets to the fun part. So first you want to correct any negative feeling that you're feeling. So, if you're uptight or anxious, you might be low in GABA. If you're procrastinating, you might be low in dopamine. If you have brain fog, you might be low in acetylcholine. If you're in a shitty mood, you're probably low in serotonin. So first it's like, let's fix that. And that is, but then once you feel like you're pretty well balanced, it gets pretty fun where it's like, okay, I'm going to go on a walk in the woods. Let's take some serotonin. I'm going to go meditate or do some yoga. It'd be nice to take some GABA before that. Or I'm going to go work out. Let's make sure I'm well stocked with dopamine. I'm going to do a research paper. I'm going to organize. I want to take my acetylcholine kind of before that task. So you can really optimize for what you're doing. So I take them just on demand. I'm normally pretty serotonin dominant, so I don't take that one too frequently. But if I'm just not feeling myself, I'll try to bump up my serotonin. GABA I take when I want to get good rest. Had a crazy day at work or something. I come home, I want to be able to relax a little easier. And acetylcholine, I take. It's great for verbal fluency, so I take it before kind of podcasts. And
I should have taken some before this.
yeah. So reading, writing, comprehending.
Yeah.
Yep.
Here's an advert in less than 20 seconds. Did you know that Wellness Provisions offers one-on-one wellness sessions? Yep. So if you're seeking to get healthy and ahead in life, but feeling a little stuck, then book a session and let's get you unstuck. Now, back to the interview.
Is there anything I don't know, just super cool right now that pops into your head just about neurotransmitters in general that is, I don't know, you're just finding fascinating lately?
Recently, I discovered the link between hormones and neurotransmitters, which is interesting. So the neurotransmitters are floating around intracellularly in between the brain cells. I have a picture of my.
Oh, yeah.
So those are brain cells, and in between those brain cells are neurotransmitters that are floating around with those neurotransmitters in between the brain cells. And estrogen, if you increase estrogen, then acetylcholine comes up. You increase testosterone, dopamine comes up. And it's also kind of the other way around. So you can increase dopamine and testosterone will come up. You can increase acetylcholine and estrogen will come up.
Cool.
So that it's super interesting. Women report brain fog when they're going through menopause or a menstrual period or something. And it's they're not only are hormones changing, but also your neurotransmitters are going through a change at the same time. So yeah, that to me is very interesting. Been just kind of looking into that recently.
That's super neat. And it makes sense because just everything in the body is connected more than we realize yet. Has there been anything that shows is from an actual physical practice? So for example, meditation, does that increase GABA in the body then? Are there that kind of effect?
Yeah. And that's delta brain waves. You're slowing down your brain and you're able to get into a GABA state. And sunlight can increase serotonin. And then of course the food that you eat. So meat, cheese, nuts will increase acetylcholine.
Okay.
Chocolate and what are some other things? Caffeine can increase dopamine. The famous one is turkey with a tryptophan that increases serotonin. GABA, I think GABA's might be found in some nuts, maybe some botanicals. I'm not sure about GABA.
I just did because I do these little factoid video things for different products that I sell, and I just find the most bizarre, it doesn't actually help really about the product per se, but just weird facts. And I shouldn't be mentioning this because I don't remember everything it was about, but there was one for mood support and it was parsley, and parsley had something that like I think it affected neurotransmitters to help with mood in parsley, of all strange things.
I haven't heard parsley. We have rosemary extract in our GABA brain food, and rosemary extract contains something called rosmaric acid.
Uh-huh.
It is a GABA esterase inhibitor. So all these neurotransmitters have these corresponding enzymes. There's dopamine esterase, serotonin esterase. GABA esterase is the enzyme that breaks down that neurotransmitter. So your brain doesn't want you to be overactive. It's kind of, you're trying to find this balance. So a GABA esterase inhibitor inhibits that enzyme that breaks down GABA, so you're going to have higher levels of GABA. And if you can just imagine the smell of rosemary, it's calming,
Yeah,
and that's because it helps increase your GABA.
that's cool. Yeah. So are there any other things that you know of that help to slow that breakdown so that the amounts are higher?
Yeah, esterase inhibitors. Good thing that that rosemary is a pretty mild GABA esterase inhibitor, because you can go overboard with it. Huperzine A. I don't know if you've heard of huperzine A. That's quite a strong acetylcholine esterase inhibitor,
Oh, okay.
and I see a lot of people overdosing it, which you don't want to like force your brain too strongly.
Yeah.
You kind of want to. That's why our approach of like your food-based amino acid precursors combined with vitamin and mineral cofactors. That's how most of our products are formulated. And it's like we're giving your brain all the nutrients that it needs to produce that specific neurotransmitter, but we're not forcing it like a drug would. So your brain still has to create it, still has to metabolize it on its own, and your brain has its own rate limiters. It's not like a drug that will like release all the neurotransmitter at once.
Right.
So yeah, esterase inhibitors, there's drugs that do that. I believe nicotine is a acetylcholine esterase inhibitor, or it works on the acetylcholine. But yeah, huperzine A is one that I see in a lot of supplements that, a correct dose should just be like 1 or 2 milligrams or something. And people kind of tone it up too high. And yeah, you're going to feel something, but you might get headaches, or it might be like just a little too much.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask too, was what happens if, the levels can go too high, I guess, or, like what kind of effects would someone feel if they take too much, or just not even take, but just when the levels get higher?
So dopamine, if you get like too high in dopamine, then you're kind of impulsive.
Mm-hmm.
Like gamblers. You get too high in acetylcholine, you're like a little bit kind of manic, like machine-like, maybe a little like angry. Too high in serotonin. I mean, there's a name for that, serotonin syndrome.
Right.
And then GABA, too high in GABA is you're basically drunk. It's yeah.
So do you have anything, like any 2 cents on the relationship between any neurotransmitters and just technology, sort of, like the dopamine kind of thing? Like, is that, I don't know, what do you got on that?
Yeah, well, the dopamine thing is just like you're too much stimulus and too much. A dopamine hit is when you like experience pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
So like scrolling through social media, like looking for the next like thing that your brain likes to look at, is you're kind of desensitizing that receptor for that neurotransmitter, and then it maybe won't work as well on its own.
Yeah.
So maybe then you're not experiencing pleasure doing things that you normally should be feeling good about.
Yeah, I feel like it throws off just like how perception, or just how you're feeling like in other areas of your life, when it becomes too I don't know, like I don't know if numbing other,
Yeah, feeling dull.
like that's what it seems like it has the potential to do if you're getting too much in one thing like that.
And I also mentioned earlier how dopamine and serotonin are a little bit of a teeter-totter. So if you're like become too high in dopamine, your serotonin is going to come down a bit. And same thing, if you're too low in dopamine, your serotonin might be a little high, and you don't want it to be overactive as well.
Yeah. What about like to be more focused? Is there other things that people can do?
Yeah. So besides like supplements, there's,
Yeah.
light is a big one. I've been experimenting with this. It's called a human charger. You turn it on and it shoots bright lights into your ears.
Oh, whoa.
So you wear it for like 20, 30 minutes. And since I live in Seattle and it's been getting darker, and so in the morning, right when I get into the office, I'll blast my ears with bright light. And there's photosensitive receptors inside your brain that can be accessed through your ear canal, like pretty deep in your ear. There's these, just like that's in your like the retina of your eye.
Yeah.
So this is like it's an easier way than standing in front of like
Light
a
box.
bright light or something,
Yeah.
to kind of mimic the sun. And yeah, you feel a little more alert. You're able to focus better. Yeah.
That is so awesome. I had no idea that existed, and that our body was, had receptors there. And oh my God, that's super cool. I'm like, I have to process this now. So
uh, I I experiment with all kinds of crazy stuff. I have this machine that is it's an inhaler, and it's hydrogen. So you're this one I was experimenting for a while. I didn't feel like strong results. Yeah, I feel good, but it's yeah, hydrogen has just a ton of studies. I take hydrogen tablets too. You put it in the water,
okay.
and it fizzles up, and it's just you're getting like a high dose of hydrogen. Really great for brain health and kind of anti-aging type stuff.
So does it like increase oxygen levels or something?
No, hydrogen levels, which is kind of H2O.
Yeah.
It's part of that. So I kind of go back to the thought that like just the air that you're breathing is very important.
I
So
feel like all we ever hear is the oxygen part.
yeah, check out hydrogen. It's really interesting, the studies that are coming out, and it's like I said, it's pretty mild. Like I don't really feel something, but hydrogen tablets. Whenever I drink alcohol, it's awesome for recovery. Like I'll never I could drink a bottle of wine, I won't get a hangover. uh, but yeah, I take other supplements too when I'm drinking, and so that's like vitamin C and acetylcysteine.
Okay.
Vitamin B1 is really good, and but really it's just like vitamin C and acetyl NAC.
Mm-hmm.
It stops the conversion of alcohol to acetaldehyde, which is like that toxic compound that gives you a hangover. And so if you could take that while you're drinking and then boost your hydrogen kind of and hydrate before you go to sleep. And
You
can
can
kind
use it all the time and never actually feel the effects.
yeah, you could just counteract you still feel the nice alcohol effects, but you can counteract the negative side effects.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Anyways, I don't know. I got off to a tangent there.
So is there like a time of day that kind of matches our natural like circadian rhythm and biology when like these would be most optimized?
Yeah, totally. And you could think about the benefits of these neurotransmitters. And so dopamine, for most people, you're going to want to boost in the morning. And that gives you the drive to go get out of bed, go do something. You want to go to work. You want to be productive. That's the feeling of dopamine, is your more productivity and drive and motivation. So it's great to take in the morning, say 8 to 11 a.m. And then acetylcholine for most people is kind of late morning or midday, because that's when you're using your brain the most. You're processing, you're interacting with others, you're organizing, whatever it is you do for your work, requires a lot of mental power and mental processing speed. So acetylcholine is great to take. I like to take it like late morning.
Could you also take it and like, because you know how people get the afternoon kind of slump when, they start to get fatigued. Could you take it then as well?
Totally. These are like tools on your tool belt. If you're procrastinating in the afternoon, take your dopamine then. But for most people, this is kind of a general schedule that seems to work with like what you said, the circadian rhythm of just your life.
Yeah.
I like serotonin for kind of mid-afternoon. you're kind of stressed out, you're worn down a bit. You want to bump up your mood to finish your day on like a high note. You're feeling good about your day. So I kind of like dopamine is, and I think we hear that from a lot of our customers. I mean, serotonin. Take serotonin like early mid afternoon, and then GABA is relaxing. It's calming. So you want to take that in the evening for most people, because that
Yeah.
helps you unwind, helps you feel that zen. But if you're in the morning, you have a big presentation at work, you're anxious, you're nervous, whatever it is, you can take the GABA then to help calm your nerves. But yeah, for kind of the general schedule for most people would be the dopamine in the morning, acetylcholine during the day, serotonin in the afternoon, GABA in the evening.
Okay.
But like that's not a firm schedule, because I want people to like help themselves when they need the help,
Yeah.
so
Listen to your body.
yeah. And that's what for me is so rewarding. But these are like, and people, once they kind of realize that, hey, something's not like wrong with me, maybe I'm just a little low in dopamine, something's not like, you have more control over your brain than you think. And with just natural foods and supplements, you can help nudge your brain in certain directions and make yourself feel better. And it's empowering, when people realize that yeah, it's something's not wrong with you. You're just a little low in acetylcholine.
Yeah.
People say, oh, my first what people say, oh, you have like 10 different supplements for brain. My brain's not working great. What do you have for me? It's like, come on, take it a step further. What about your brain's not working great?
Mhm.
Are you procrastinating? That's dopamine. Are you in a crappy mood? That's serotonin. Are you
Yeah.
you have brain fog? That's acetylcholine. Are you anxious, nervous? Because that's GABA.
And I
So
think
really
it's
being
also,
introspective. Yeah.
that's what I was going to say. It
Yeah.
pushes people to have more of a connection with themselves instead of like, oh, I feel bad. Well, let's go further. And because a lot of people don't have that relationship with themselves, with their body.
Yeah. And I just being introspective, I think is a massive part of improving your health, in all ways, and just being able to be more in tune with how you feel at any given time. And yeah, I think kind of most people that they think, oh, my memory's not good, or like, you know, I'm lazy, or whatever it is, and it's like, okay, let's do something about that,
Yeah. It's
and
not
yeah.
like a sealed fate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I mentioned, there's these genetics, there's these neurotransmitters, but different times of day, different situations. The more you can be in tune with how you feel, and I like to just kind of step back every couple hours and just think and like breathe a couple times. And like, all right, how am I feeling right now? Um, you know, am I low in a neurotransmitter? Um, sometimes I'm just like, I just gotta I gotta go for a little walk or something, because I just can't like, I don't want to do this work right now or something. I need to like reset.
Yeah.
But yeah, the more you can do that, the more you can be introspective and realize what you need, the more productive, the more happy, the better, I think
Yeah.
life you can live. Yeah.
Plus, even literally just being introspective, because that requires honesty. And if you can get over that hurdle of being honest with yourself, then you're already like fast tracking yourself to just overall self betterment.
Totally.
What do you think of the Braverman test, that online thing? Because I can link people to that like through here as well to try.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. And that book, The Edge Effect is what it's called, by Dr. Eric Braverman. That really kind of opened my eyes to the neurotransmitters.
Yeah. Have you done the online
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, many times. And I definitely recommend it. It's like 200 questions, so it takes, but it goes very fast, and you don't want to think too hard about it. You just want to try to answer truthfully and quickly. It's all true or false. So it takes maybe 20 minutes. But yeah, at the end of that test, it will tell you which neurotransmitter you're likely dominant in and which one you're likely deficient in. And I find it to be highly accurate. You kind of, you do that test and you're like, wow, that is me. It's because there's like sections that describe, what happens how you feel if you're dominant in a neurotransmitter. And that's really your personality. And Yeah, so there's other ways. There's something called an organic acids test, which is a urine test, and it tests the metabolites of metabolizing a specific neurotransmitter. Some people say it's not like that accurate, but there's not, it's, besides being introspective, this test, the Braverman assessment, I think the easiest way is probably bravermantest.com. I haven't checked it recently, but it gives you a very clear picture of your neurotransmitter balance at that time. And I would recommend taking that, once a month, or, because your levels fluctuate, and it just gives you a stronger ability to be introspective, and it helps you understand your own brain. And the more you understand your own brain, the better you can suit your activities or your supplements or your whatever to match your neurochemistry.
Yeah, knowledge is power.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. Dr. Eric Braverman, he's kind of, I think recently he's kind of gone a little bit off the deep end, but that book was written 10, 20 years ago, and it's amazing. I highly recommend. Yeah, if you're interested, read the whole book. It's very easy to read. It's not like, chemistry. It really makes it easy to understand your own brain and how these neurotransmitters work.
So awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So I like to ask everybody, do you have a quote that you like a lot? Because I always find these very interesting.
But so I'll take it from my parents. So my mother taught me that everything is going to be all right. And then my dad taught me not to give a shit what anyone thinks. So those together, I think, have really helped me as a person, just kind of be who I am, and just I don't let stuff really get to me, and I can be optimistic. So yeah, pretty basic quotes, but
I love it.
Yeah.
But it's the basic ones that are the most true and relatable. So yeah. The tagline for my business is delay dying. So I like to ask everybody, if you had to give someone tips or advice on how to delay dying, or just, in other words, live a healthier and happier life, what would you say?
I think relationships with others gives you a stronger reason to live. And you see these scary graphs that, the older people get, the more alone they are. I think having close relationships with people, it doesn't have to be your family, it could be anyone, it could be a dog, but just having relationships with a being, I think, gives you more reason to live and a longer, healthier life.
Totally. We are community-based, tribal kind of humans. It's what we are. So being alone is not great for too long. Alone for too long. Yeah. Awesome, man. Thank you so much. This has been, I've been excited for this conversation, and I'm excited for it to air now, because you had said, it's empowering to understand your brain and your body, and then therefore see it's not limiting, and things can be modified, and there's an ebb and flow. So this has just been awesome.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun.
The